okay. So he felt this this deep love and attachment to this place. So he said, I'm going to study here. So by the age, so he studied basically in Mecca and Medina with the different scholars. And by the age of 18, so in the 2 years that he spent there, he already started writing books. And he wrote these books while sitting next to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. So can you imagine in the Rawda where people are now, they like try to pray and stuff? So he was sitting next to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ while he's writing these texts. So imagine the barakah that's descending down in that area, right? So everything about this man, well, not even man yet, he's a young man, right? He's a teenager. Everything about him is special so far. From his birth to the dua, we see the miracles, his knowledge, his memory, everything is blessed. We see Allah's barakah in every aspect of his life. And he writes the 2 books. One of them is called At-Tarikh Al-Kabir, which basically talks about the qualities of hadith narrators. So he's talking about different hadith narrators and their qualities. And the other is called Qadaya Al-Sahaba wa Tabi'in. And this basically praises the companions and it praises the tabi'in. So remember all the stuff that he witnessed earlier? This is the time where he gathered up all his knowledge and now he's writing about it. So from age 6 or 8, he's been hearing about all this stuff. And by the age of 18, he's already written a book counteracting the claims, the radical claims that people are making about the Sahaba. So this shows us what kind of proactive person he was. He wasn't just going to sit around and complain about things, but that means that he had made an intention long ago that I'm going to do something about this. When you make the intention, you don't know when it's going to come to fruition, right? But what did he do along with the intention? He started gathering knowledge, right? Because if you make the intention to do something, now you have to gather the knowledge to be able to execute that intention. And so Allah basically supplied him with the knowledge that he needed, right, to protect the intention. So one of the times what happened is that while he started traveling, he started documenting a hadith from over 1,000 scholars. So now, by the time he's 18, he's met 1,000 scholars, and he's basically collected a hadith from all of them. And then he traveled to Baghdad. Baghdad is in modern-day Iraq, right? And we know that that was the center of Islamic knowledge, even at the time. So he went there to study with all these scholars. So the people he met there was after the death of Imam Malik, his student was Imam al-Shafi'i. And then Imam al-Bukhari met scholars such as Ishaq ibn Rahway, who is a very known Islamic hadith scholar, and he met Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, right, the founder of the Hanbali madhab. And in the circle of Ishaq ibn Rahway, he heard from his teacher that I wish that there was a hadith book, a compilation of hadith that was completely authentic. His teacher mentioned this. So imagine like you're sitting in a class, your teacher's like, I really wish this book existed, but it doesn't exist. And you sitting as a student, you make the intention, I'm going to make it happen. That's what he did. So his teacher, Ishaq ibn Rahway, says, I really wish that there was a book, because he knows that when you compile a hadith from everywhere, there are going to be some reports that are not authentic. Because their job at that time was just compilation. They weren't really worried about the authenticity at this point, because they were like, well, we just need to compile everything we can before the giants pass away. Because Imam Malik and Imam al-Shafi'i had already passed away. So that's why this scholar, Ishaq ibn Rahway, was now worried. He's like, we just lost 2 giants of our ummah. Well, not just those 2, but other giants as well. So he's like, how do we need to compile the authentic hadith before we lose more scholars. So Imam Bukhari heard that, and he made an intention. He made an intention that I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to basically compile a book that everybody can depend on, and it's only going to have the most verified hadith, the most authentic hadith possible. And that's where the seed had been planted for writing Sahih al-Bukhari. And by this time, okay, so when he was 18, 20, okay, so now 16 years more, which is like now he's in his 30s. Now he had transmitted a hadith from about 80,000 narrators. 80,000. Yeah, so he met that, actually he transmitted hadith, so he didn't meet that many people, but transmitted hadith because it could be like, okay, you're sitting with a scholar and the scholar heard from another scholar. That could count in there as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean he met 80,000 people, but he had transmitted hadith from 80,000 narrators. So in the chain of narrators, he had basically like 80,000 different narrators. That's what it means. He's still in Baghdad. He's still in Baghdad, yeah. In Baghdad. He's still in Baghdad, yeah. So he's like in his 30s now, because they said 16 years had passed after he was like 18, 20. Okay, so there was this one incident that happened. in Baghdad, Imam al-Bukhari is becoming popular, right? People are recognizing him for his memory. They're praising him. They're saying this student is like a, protege, like he's basically a genius of sorts. So there are other scholars who are getting jealous, okay? And we don't like to talk about this because we want to treat our scholars with the most esteemed respect, but they're still human at the end of the day. And so there are some scholars who are starting to get jealous because people are leaving their gatherings and going to Imam Bukhari's gatherings, even though he's a student, right? Because his memory is so great that he surpassed his teachers very quickly. Not all of them, but some of them. And of course, there were teachers who are not jealous, who would encourage him, who would give him the platform. But there's other scholars who don't want to give him the platform because now the students are leaving their masjids and going to the other masjid, right? So they thought, okay, we're going to challenge him. If his memory is actually so great, we're going to challenge him. So they call all the people of the city, and they all come to see because they know about him, right? They're like, oh, there's something happening. So there were 10 scholars. So they put 10 scholars of Baghdad, and they were all hadith scholars. And then they put Imam al-Bukhari on basically the soapbox, right? Like, we're going to test you now. And what they did was they recited 100 ahadith, okay? And what they did was, oh, sorry, it says 10, but I think, no, 10 different ahadith. No, it was actually 100. I think it was 100. So they recited 100 ahadith, and they mixed up the matan, which is the text, and they mixed up the chains, okay? So like I'm giving you, I'm giving you the text of, like, for example, let's say there was a hadith that's narrated by Ibn Umar, and then it's going all the way up, right? And I'm going to give you a different hadith narrated by Ibn Umar going all the way up. I'm going to mix it with another one. So they mixed all of the ahadith and all of the texts and narrators, and they said it wrong. And then they said, okay, correct us. And he corrected them all the way, like from the chain of narrations, he corrected those. And then he assigned the correct text to the correct chain by memory. He recited it all back to them in front of everybody, and they were just like, what is happening? Like, that's a very good question. He was born in 194 after Hijri, which is the Islamic date. So about 36 years after that. Yeah, at 30 years. It's not actually that long after Hijri, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so we got that. Okay, there was another story that stands out from his time, which is the story of the gold coins. So there was one occasion where he was traveling, right? Now he's traveling outside of Baghdad, and he's on a ship, and he was carrying with him 1,000 gold coins. So there was a man on the ship who in the middle of the night started screaming, somebody took my coins, like my coin pouch, right, of gold coins. But he was a thief. He had seen the gold coins with Imam Bukhari earlier, and he was trying to accuse him. So he basically said, oh, somebody stole my coins. So when people wake up and they find it with Imam Bukhari, he basically gets his coins back, right, because he's accusing him of stealing. So when he woke up and he started screaming and causing a fuss, everybody woke up and they started getting upset, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you causing such a fuss? He's like, oh, I lost my money. And then he accused Imam Bukhari, like, this man has it. And when they searched him, he had nothing. So the people are like, okay, what's happening? So he got accused of being a liar, basically, right? But nobody knows what happens to the coins. Then the man comes to Imam Bukhari in private, and he says, what happened to the coins? Because when you boarded the ship, I saw that you had the pouch. So what did you do with it? Where are you hiding it? Like, how could you hide it so well? He said, I threw it overboard. I threw it away. And he's like, are you crazy? Why would you throw away 1,000 gold coins? Like, that's crazy. That's even more than $1,000, right? That's like probably $100,000. Why would you do that? He said, because I have been guarding my intention, and I have been guarding my heart and my trust and, like, basically my reputation and my character for this long, because I am the carrier of hadith. And you think I'm going to let you come in here and accuse me of stealing over 1,000 gold coins? Like, you think the whole legacy of the Prophet ﷺ that I'm carrying is worth less than 1,000 gold coins? So I just threw them away. Because that's how he saved his reputation, basically, right? Because if the gold coins had been found with him, even if let's say he proved himself correct, he could have done that. It was his. It was his to begin with. It belonged to him, yeah.
And then the guy,
The guy, yeah,
somebody else stole it.
No, no, he pretended that he stole it. He pretended. So like imagine, he accused him basically. So he threw it in the ocean before the people even searched him. So that when the people came, he had nothing, and the other guy was exposed to be a liar like he was. His reputation was more valuable. And this is what tells us, like, basically, it's not just about character, but it's also about reputation. Because if you have an impeccable character, but people don't know that, what's the point? Right? So it's not like your character is between you and Allah, yes. And sometimes, like, we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that a reputation isn't important. Right? Like, oh, as long as Allah knows, it's fine. No, you should try to protect your reputation, because your family's honor, your children's honor, if you're a carrier of knowledge, if you're a community worker, anything like that, you have to take care of your reputation because it impacts on other people, right? And it impacts on what you're standing for. So for example, like as a Muslim, if I'm wearing hijab and I go out and I'm like sitting in the shisha lounge, like that looks bad, right? So even though it's wrong, I also have to be careful where I go, what I do in public because I'm representing Islam, right? So that's what shows us that Imam Bukhari, he protected his reputation so much that he threw away the gold coins, saying it's nothing, like it meant nothing to him because he spent his whole life protecting the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So that's he lost his money, yeah, he lost it. He purposely threw it away because that's his level of integrity. We have another story about his integrity. Once there was a caravan that came to Imam al-Bukhari to sell something to him, like specifically to make a deal with him, like we're going to give you this much, whatever goods, and you're going to give us this much money. He wasn't really a merchant, but he's a traveler. He's a traveler. So travelers, they sometimes, they exchange, they buy and sell. It doesn't say anything here, wallahu alam, if he's a merchant or not. There's just select stories that they have from his life. So there was a story where the merchants came to him and they said, we want to do a business deal with you. He said, let me get back to you tomorrow. So he didn't actually give them his word. He didn't say, I'm going to give it, like I'm going to make a deal with you and I'm going to pay you tomorrow. He just said, let me think about it. So he didn't say yes, he didn't say no, right? He just said, let me think about it, I'll come back to you. The next day, what happened is before he met the other group, another group of merchants came to him and said, we would like to give you a business deal as well. And this one was more profitable, okay? But he said no to them, and he goes back to the first one and accepts the business deal of the first one. And when somebody asks him why he did that, he said, because I made an intention to do the business deal with the first one. So it's not even about, somebody might say, okay, well, if you made a promise, I understand you don't want to break your promise. He didn't even want to break his intention. His intention was only between him and Allah. It was completely permissible for him to go with the second deal, right? Like if you give me an offer and you give me an offer, and I tell you I'll think about it tomorrow, it's not an issue if I go with you, right? Like it's completely okay because I never promised you anything. But he, in his heart, he had made an intention that I'm going to buy from these people. So when somebody better came along, he didn't change his intention. He's not. He doesn't even want to go against the intention he made between him and Allah. That's how much he valued the intention itself. So this is the man that we're talking about who compiled this book, right? Yeah. Bukhara. Modern day Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan. It's a very beautiful city, like in Uzbekistan. It's East Asia, I think. No, I don't. It's near Russia, yeah. The people there, they kind of look Asian a little bit, but they're very beautiful people. Like, and the country is absolutely beautiful. Like if you look at the masajid and like the pictures of Bukhara and all the historical sites, they're amazing. Yeah, he's from Bukhara. That's why they say Imam Bukhari, because he's from there. But he spent most of his life in Baghdad. Yes. Yes, most of his life in Baghdad. Yeah, yeah. And then and then in 250 after Hijri, he came to the area of Nishapur in Khorasan. I don't know where Khorasan is. It's probably in the area, not too far. So this is where he started attracting thousands of hadith students. This is when he became prominent. Now he's established. He's no longer a student. He's actually an established teacher. And people from all over came. Even scholars came to him to study hadith. So there was one imam named Imam Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj. So he also came to study with him. But then the scholars in Nishapur, the area where he was in, they started to become, again, jealous. Like, this guy is taking all of our students, so what do we do? So now they started rumors about him. They started rumors that this man is here to spread misinformation about the deen, when he was there to do the exact opposite, right? His goal had always been to preserve the dignity of Islam and the authenticity. And they put the exact opposite allegation on him, that this man is here to corrupt the religion, right? So it kind of put doubts in the heart of people. Because no matter how respected or, credible somebody is, all it takes is one little seed, right? You just plant it, like, oh, do you know who this person studied with? Or do you know what happened on this travels? Or do you know where you guys' hadith from? And that's it. People will start doubting you, and then the doubt will continue, right? Because shaitan was going to take them the rest of the way. So he started to now think like, okay, what should I do? So he actually left the city, because he couldn't stand that allegation being put on him. So he left the city of Nishapur, and he went back to his home city of Bukhara. He's back in Bukhara, back in his hometown. And now the governor is pressuring him that I want you as a private tutor for my kids. Because you're a prominent scholar, right? So he's like, I want you to only teach my kids, and I'll pay you basically anything that you ask for. Like any price you ask for, I'll pay you. So this is like the opportunity of a lifetime, right? From dunya perspective. He says no. He says my knowledge is for the public. It's not for just your private, elite, institution that you want to run at home with your kids. My knowledge is for the public, and I will teach in a public masjid, in a public gathering. I don't care about your money. And so he was forced out of the city. The leader basically kicked him out of the city.
And he went back home.
So now he's poor. Yeah. He went back home out of choice, but then the governor kicked him out because he refused to teach the governor's children privately, right? So the governor kicked him out, and now he's on the outskirts of the city. So if this is Bukhara, now he's just outside the city. He doesn't want to travel that much anymore, but now he's just in Samarkand, so like the outskirts of Samarkand. Okay. Over there was a village named called Khartang. So in Khartang, this is a small village. Now he was in the public eye, and now he's hidden away. He's chosen, after he left, he's chosen to be very low-key. He is not in the eyes of the people anymore. He's living modestly. He's not teaching anymore. And he makes a dua to Allah because he's feeling very broken at this point and very sad, because the city where he wanted to teach, he's not able to teach because they won't let him teach publicly, right? So the governor kicked him out, and now he's like, what do I do with my life? Like, I dedicated my life to study so that I can teach, and now I can't teach, so what do I do? So he made this dua. It's a very powerful dua. He said, oh Allah, the earth, despite its vastness, like it's so vast, like, so he's not even faulting the earth. He's telling Allah, Ya Allah, your earth is vast, it's huge. You created this place that's way bigger than I can even imagine, but it's becoming narrow for me. It's becoming very narrow for me, so take me back to you. So he's basically saying like, it's too much anguish, too much pain, I can't handle it anymore. So he asks Allah to take him back on the first night in Shawwal, to die, yeah.
When he was not that old,
Huh?
He's not that old still.
He's not that old, no.
Maybe he's
I don't know how old he is, but so now this is 6 years after he was in Nishapur. So 256 AH, and when he was born in 194, and now it's 60. Okay, so he is old, yeah. So on the first night of Shawwal, he developed an illness and he passed away in that same village. So Allah answered his dua. The same year, yeah. The same year.
Where did he compile the
It doesn't say here.
So he wrote the books.
I'm sure it's known, but it doesn't say here specifically, but I'm sure it's known. Yeah, he already wrote it, yeah.
Before he passed away.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because in this biography that I'm reading, they only mentioned those 2 books earlier, but we know that he wrote other books. So, and of course, the one we're studying, Adab Al Mufrad, is also written by him, which is the really fat book. So he made the dua, that Allah answered his dua, he passed away. And there were some sources at that time, there's some people who narrated, that Imam Bukhari, that basically he came in a dream to them. And in the dream, the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ were waiting. And they asked, who are you waiting for? And the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm waiting for Imam al-Bukhari. So that was a dream that some of the scholars had at that time. And so that was his Some people had a dream, yeah. In some of the scholars had a dream that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba are waiting, and they asked him, "Who are you waiting for?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, "I'm waiting for Imam al-Bukhari." So that was like kind of a, like the scholars say that when righteous people have a good dream about someone, it's a good sign, right? So when these scholars, hadith scholars, had a dream about him, it's a good sign that Allah accepted from him, right? And one of the other signs of acceptance, by the way, of after his death, yeah. One of the signs of somebody's acceptance after their death is that their knowledge and their legacy continues, right? And the fact that we know when we talk about Imam Bukhari all the time, like there's no Islamic studies class that's complete without, studying his ahadith, that's a testament to the fact that Allah accepted from him, right? Because there's many scholars who are forgotten, right? They might have a status with Allah, but we don't know, right? We don't know about them. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, they're of their time only, yeah. But he surpassed even some of his teachers, and like he's a household name. Everybody knows him. So sometimes, like when righteous people remember righteous people, that's a good sign, right? So when all the Muslims in the world are remembering him, that's a good sign, including the scholars, including the muhaddith, including everybody, right? So yeah, that was his just a short biography. I'm sure we have more. And so he wrote this book called Adab Al Mufrad. And so the word adab, right, in Arabic, it's actually derived from Hamza, Dal, Ba, which means to invite people together, right? Linguistically, it means to invite people together to a banquet. That's where the root word of adab comes from. So the link here is that when you have good adab, you are like a banquet and everybody's attracted to you, like kind of like flies to honey. So that's kind of like the linguistic meaning. And then there's an ayah where Allah says, وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So do what is good and beautiful, for certainly Allah loves the good doers. So adab is basically a beautiful way of being, of feeling, of thinking. Everything that you do has this like beauty and elegance to it that people are just naturally attracted to you. Ustadha Yasmin Mujahid, she has this book called Love and Happiness, and she said this quote that just, to me, fit in perfectly with this theme. She said, "Let the beauty of what you seek transform what you are. And let the beauty of what you are transform what you do." So who are we seeking? Allah. We're seeking Allah, right? As Muslims, and everything that we do, we're seeking Allah. So the beauty of what you seek, right? Allah is al-Jamil, yuhibbul jamal, right? Allah is the most beautiful, and He loves beauty. So when we are seeking Allah, when we're on that path, then we have to become beautiful, right, on the inside, because Allah already made us beautiful on the outside. We have the dua to affirm it, right? Allahumma kama hassanta khalqi fahassin khuluqi. Oh Allah, the way you have beautified my form, right, my physical form, beautify my character. So we have this emphasis where we remove the focus from the outside and we put it inside, right? Because most of the world, they're concerned with external appearances. Most people are concerned about how they look physically, how they're perceived by other people. And like, I guess an obsession with a reputation comes in over here in a bad way, right? Where you're always concerned about what people are thinking about you, or what perception they have of you. That's the wrong kind of thing to be obsessed with. So we're seeking Allah, so we have to become beautiful because we're seeking the beautiful, right? And let the beauty of what you are transform what you do, which means like, okay, now you've set out on this path to become beautiful on the inside. Now every single thing that you do is going to be transformed, right? Because the way you talk to people, the way you treat them is going to be transformed because you have transformed. So it's like this chain reaction. You're getting your beauty from Allah because He's the source. You become beautiful, and then you pass on the beauty to others. And beauty in this sense means we're talking about the spiritual beauty, right? The non-material. So what is adab actually? So adab encompasses a wide range of social virtues, ethical virtues, like good manners, being graceful, showing hospitality to your friends, to your guests, having refined taste, being courageous, being well-educated. That also comes under adab. Having knowledge and having literary skill. All of these things can fall under adab. It doesn't have to mean all of them, like just because somebody doesn't have like elevated taste doesn't mean they don't have good adab, but they do come under it. Because when we talk about like the sahabiyat, right, we did like a sahabiyat series in Ramadan. When we talk about the certain sahabiyat, they were described as being very classy in modern terms. Like they were somebody, like some of them were princesses, right? Like Safiya. Safiya was a princess. She was the daughter of one of the tribal leaders, right? Juwayriya, she was also a princess. She was a Jewish, no, not Jewish, sorry. Safiya was Jewish. Juwayriya was Arab. So these two wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they were described as being very elegant, right? Like very, very ladylike and polite, and like the way we see in the movies, like, you know, people go through a transformation and they become like refined and they know how to carry themselves. So these things are not just external characteristics, but they are part of adab, right? And it's not necessary that somebody has to have them, but when you do have them, it attracts people more to you, right? And you might be thinking, okay, what is the spiritual connection between somebody being attracted to you? It's because human nature is such that when someone has good manners, you're more likely to listen to what they have to say, right? Like I could be saying an ayah from the Quran and yelling it at you, right? I could be yelling at you. I'm still saying an ayah from the Quran. It's true, right? Because Allah said it, it's true. But you're going to be like, I don't want to listen to that person. Because the way they're saying it is making you feel so bad about yourself. But I could say the same ayah, and I could say it with love and gentleness and make you feel good about yourself and show you how much Allah cares about you. And then you're going to be like, okay, I feel good. I want to listen to this, right? And all the prophets, for that reason, Allah made all of the prophets very beautiful. They were actually even physically handsome. There was not a single prophet that was like physically disfigured or disabled or anything like that. Allah made them completely healthy and completely like, you like to look at them and you like to listen to them. That's how the prophets were. Because people had to be, attracted to the message, right? And they, of course, they had the best of manners as well. And Allah refined them. Whenever they made a mistake, Allah refined them. Allah corrected them to show them how they should be with the people. Adab includes having high moral principles. So your fitrah has to be correct. That's part of your adab. Meaning, if you commit a lot of sins and you don't make tawbah, you're not going to have good adab. Because your heart has been corrupted now. So your fitrah, when your fitrah is intact, when your human nature, the way Allah created you, in its purest form, when it's still there, that's the person who often has the best adab. So our fitrah does get corrupted, right? Everyday life, living in the society, external influences, the stuff we watch, the stuff we listen to, the people we hang around, right? It influences our fitrah. And then our adab gets messed up, right? That's what Prophet ﷺ said, be careful who you keep your company with, because your company influences who you become, right? And we often see people, they start sounding the same, they start saying the same jokes, even like the sarcasm they might pick up from somebody else, or their manners might become more rough, right? Like you might know someone who has like really good manners, and if like a few months later you meet them and they're like cursing or something, and you're like, wait a second, like you're not the type of person who curses. Maybe they've been hanging around somebody who uses bad language, right? And they picked up on it without even realizing it. And then you give them a reminder, like, hey, this is not who you are, this is not the way you talk, like come back to yourself, you give these reminders to people. So when you hang around the company that you keep, it has an effect on you. One more thing that falls under adab is social and emotional intelligence, right? Social intelligence is like knowing the customs of your area, knowing the customs of your culture, knowing how to do things with people, and learning this is part of our deen, right? Because we have ibadat and we have mu'amalat, right? Ibadat we have between us and Allah, and mu'amalat we have between us and the people. And so sometimes we might hurt someone without realizing it if we don't know our own cultural or other cultural norms. Right? I'm going to give a short example, like a small example that I recently came across. So when you give a gift to someone, do you open it straight away or do you go home and open it? Go home and open it? Open it straight away? Okay. Where are you from, by the way? Okay, okay. Is that the norm over there? You open it straight away? Uh-huh. Yeah.
And also say them thank you.
Yeah. Exactly. So I had once somebody give me a gift, and I went home and opened it, and they got offended. Because even though I'm a product, I did grow up in America, like I was born and raised here, but I'm very, very desi. Like my parents are Indian, and I'm very, very Indian. Like at home, we're very cultural. So they always taught me that you open the gift after the person has left. Yeah. That's an Eastern value. Because what it shows, like if you open the gift in front of the person, it shows that you're greedy. It shows that you value the gift they gave you more than they value the person. So now they gave you a gift, but they're gonna feel like, oh, this person doesn't care about me. They care about the gift only. But in the Western culture, when you give a gift, you're expected to open it straight away, because otherwise it looks like you don't care about it, right? Like you don't value the person. So see how the same thing can cause different reactions in different people. And it's funny because just a few days after I received the gift, I saw this podcast episode where this like Asian American woman was talking about the same issue. Because Asians, they have the same Eastern values, right? That I guess Middle Easterns and Africans do. And in the West, it's different. So it's interesting that you guys had different answers as well. So when we live in a diverse society, it helps to learn about other cultures, because you want to do things according to their culture just to avoid offending somebody, right? And we know the Prophet ﷺ, he even though he was in Arabia most of his life, he was aware of different customs and different tribes and the way different tribes did things, right? Like once there was, what's his name? Khalid ibn Walid. Khalid ibn Walid was sitting and he was eating locusts, like the insects in the desert. He was eating a whole tray of locusts. And he was so excited, like he was really enjoying them too, like really just, like having fun with it. Like imagine you're eating like grapes or something, or like, like we're eating fruit or nuts and you're just like really enjoying, taking your time. So he has this whole platter of locusts and he's like really enjoying them. And Rasulullah ﷺ walks in and he said, Rasulullah, here, have some. Like he's like so enthusiastically offering it. And the Prophet ﷺ just quietly just says, this is not from the food of my people. Like meaning I'm not accustomed to this food. He didn't like make a disgusting face. He didn't say, ew, like what are you eating? His manners were so impeccable that he didn't like eat it just because he didn't want to, right? So Prophet ﷺ, he still held his ground. Like he's not gonna do something he doesn't want to do just to please someone, but he also didn't hurt his feelings. He said, this is not from the food of my people, right? So like if somebody offers you something, it's not in your culture, you don't have to eat it just to be polite. Yes. It is halal. It is halal. No, from his culture, from his tribe. Because even in like Quraysh, they had multiple tribes and stuff, and even in Mecca, they had other tribes. I actually don't know which tribe Khalid ibn Walid is from, but I thought he was Qurashi, but I'm not sure anymore. But yeah, the Prophet was not saying it's haram. He didn't say it's haram. He refused. Yeah. No, he said it's not from the food of my people, meaning my culture. Yeah, my culture. So yeah, that shows that you're allowed to decline politely. Because I know in some cultures also, in Eastern culture specifically, when people offer you food and you say no, people take it the wrong way. They think it's so rude, right? Like they keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you, and then you say no. They're like, oh, like they say it like they think it's like something bad. Yeah, you don't like my food or something. You don't have to also be pressured like that. You don't have to be a people pleaser to that extent. Like if someone offers you and you really don't like it, like you know your capacity to be polite, right? Like sometimes I'll eat something to be polite, but sometimes I will draw the line. Like I do not eat like liver and kidneys and that kind of stuff. Like organ meats is where I draw the line. So I don't care how much somebody insists. I'm just not going to put that thing in my mouth. So like you know your limits. So you can politely decline by saying, oh, I'm not used to this food, or when I eat, my body reacts this way to this food. I don't feel comfortable, but I'll have something else, right? You can say that. So Prophet did that himself. So just knowing these different like nuances, it's what adds to a person's like manners and character. That adds to it. Yeah, most of the time I say I have food reaction. Yeah, sensitivity. You can say anything. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to get sick either. So, all right. There's a we went over time. I'm just going to finish this one point and then we'll end, inshallah. What is the difference between adab and khuluq? These two words are often used interchangeably, but there's a slight difference. So khuluq is a characteristic. So it's your character trait. So like, for example, being honest, being trustworthy, being sincere, being authentic, having integrity. This is khuluq. So it's more of like an individual characteristic. Adab is like more of a overarching like term that refers to like manners. So the way you conduct yourself. So khuluq are character traits, adab is manners. And there is a slight difference because there can be someone who has good khuluq, but they don't have any adab. Right? Somebody who can be very, very honest and very trustworthy, but they might talk to people in a rude manner, right? Or there can be somebody who has adab, meaning they're very polite, they're very courteous to their guests, they're extremely well-mannered, you feel amazing in their company, very hospitable, but then they'll talk about you behind your back. Right? So you can have adab or you can have khuluq, but our goal here is to merge the two. Right? As a complete Muslim, your goal is to merge the two, is to have khuluq and to have adab. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the heaviest thing on the scale on the Day of Judgment is good character. Having good khuluq is the heaviest thing on the scale. So any good deed that you can do, it's beyond that. It's actually worth more than praying all night and fasting all day. So that's the person with the good character, they get that much reward. So we'll end over here. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati ma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.